The sun in the abyss. The night descended upon Saigon like a heavy velvet blanket, yet it couldn't smother the chaotic, yellowish, and crimson glow of the entertainment district. The scent of beer, cheap perfume, and mustiness from the narrow alleys blended into a distinctive aroma of life lived on the fringes after dark. Ton Mai, 22, huddled against the cold, grey stone wall of the illusory Paradise karaoke parlor. She took a deep breath of the stifling air, as if preparing to plunge into a bottomless chasm. Her tight-fitting cobalt blue uniform dress, designed to accentuate her figure, now felt like a fragile armor, inadequate to shield the trembling soul within. This year, she should have been a final-year university student, busy with her graduation thesis, not standing here, selling her most precious asset for a fragile thread of hope. "Sir, are you looking for some relief tonight?" The words themselves, spoken from her own mouth, filled Ton Mai with disgust. Her voice was so low it was almost drowned out by the pounding dance music from inside. She had no other choice. The doctor said they had reached the limit. Without the funds for the next round of treatment and special imported medicine, San, her little son, would not last much longer. The man facing her, Vu Hao, later known as Hung, exhaled a hazy plume of smoke. The purple neon light highlighted his sharp jawline and emotionless eyes. He was around 30, wearing a black Italian silk shirt with an open collar, exuding an air of power and the weariness of a man with too much money but too little joy. He studied Ton Mai, his gaze lingering on her youth and undisguised panic. This was not the look of a seasoned professional. "What did you just say?" Hao's voice was low, laced with suspicion. Suppressing her fear, Ton Mai repeated herself, trying to sound as businesslike as possible. 1 million Vietnamese dong. "Is that acceptable?" Hao let out a cynical chuckle that didn't reach his eyes. "Fine. 1 million dong. A paltry price for a night." It made Ton Mai's humiliation double, for she didn't even know how to price the act of selling herself. Hao pulled her away from the noisy karaoke alley. His sleek, black Mercedes S-Class glided smoothly through the streets, taking them to the luxurious The Obsidian Hotel. Ton Mai, usually serving drinks inside the karaoke rooms, was officially going out with a client for the first time since that nightmare when she was 18. Using the keycard, he led her into the suite on the 20th floor, where floor-to-ceiling windows offered a spectacular view of the city shimmering under the faint moonlight. The door closed, cutting off all outside noise. Hao gestured toward the bathroom. "Go take a clean shower." She clutched the plush white towel and hurried inside. She scrubbed her body meticulously, cleanly. 1 million dong. She couldn't afford to disappoint him. More than that, she wanted to wash away the smell of makeup and liquor from the illusory paradise before facing this transaction. After showering, Ton Mai wrapped herself in the towel and waited on the bed. Hao was quick, taking only 10 minutes. He stepped out, unclothed except for a towel around his waist. His body was toned, muscular but not overly ostentatious, radiating vitality. He didn't rush. He casually sat on the edge of the bed. A man in his 30s without a wife had needs. He hadn't found the right person for a family but required an outlet. Turning to girls like her seemed logical. After all, it was a profession. Ton Mai stirred, embarrassed, worried she might dissatisfy him. Hao looked at her young face. "How old are you?" 22, sir. If she'd had a proper education, she'd be graduating college now. But few in this line of work received a decent education, she thought. "How many times have you gone out with a client?" Suddenly, he was curious about her. Ton Mai shook her head, unable to answer. If she said it was her first time, would he believe her? Of course not. She could only shake her head. Hao laughed mockingly, then lay down on the bed. His laughter was prolonged, full of derision yet containing a hint of curiosity. "Serve me well tonight, and I'll give you 5 million. Ton Mai was overjoyed. 5 million was a substantial amount. Awkwardly, she kissed his chest, then slowly undid the towel around his waist, revealing his body. Her clumsy, tentative movements irritated Hao. Was she genuinely inexperienced, or was she an expert actress? He suspected the latter. How could anyone in this profession not know how to please a man? Perhaps she was feigning ignorance to elicit pity. He closed his eyes, feeling the familiar dullness. Tonmai stared at him. Suddenly, the ring of her phone startled her. It could only be the hospital nurse. "Sir, could I please take this call for a moment?" The persistent ringing signaled urgency. She couldn't wait for his answer. She quickly got out of bed, found her phone, and answered. Hao didn't catch the words on the other end, but he saw her frantically putting her clothes back on. Her voice was hurried. "Not tonight. Could you call me tomorrow? I have to go to the hospital now." Hao looked at the girl quizzically. She was strange. Why the rush to a hospital past midnight? He dismissed it, assuming their fate was too short for a night together. Fully dressed, she pulled a piece of paper and a pen from her purse, jotting down her number. She handed it to him. "Call me tomorrow." He slipped the number into his pocket, thinking he might need it later. Tonmai left the room. After she was gone, he got up and dressed. A true anticlimax. Leaving the hotel, Hao saw the girl, still agitated, standing at the entrance. He frowned. "What is it now?" She looked embarrassed. "It's past 11, and I can't find a taxi." He considered ignoring her. It wasn't his problem. But the midnight breeze, though not biting, was enough to make the lightly dressed girl shiver. "Get in. I'll take you." She beamed. "Really? Thank you, sir." Hao suddenly wondered if he'd committed some karmic error to be stuck with this troublesome girl. The car sped toward the hospital. As soon as it stopped, Tonmai thanked him and bolted out. Hao was about to drive away. "Damn it," he cursed softly. Her handbag was still in his car. He opened the door and ran after her. She ran too fast. He didn't even know her name to call out, so he followed helplessly. Truly a hassle. He followed her to a pediatric ward. Inside the room, a child, about 3 or 4, was sitting with his knees drawn up on the bed. She rushed in, immediately hugging and comforting the little one. A nurse passing by saw him standing outside. "Are you Ms. Mai's friend?" As if mesmerized, he didn't answer. The nurse repeated her question. "Is that little boy her son?" "Yes, he's her son." Her son? A girl barely 22 had a child that age? Is she a single mother? Otherwise, if she had a husband, why would he let her earn money this way? The nurse patiently asked again, "Are you her friend?" Then corrected herself. "You're dressed so elegantly, you must be her boss." He shook his head. "I am not her boss." They were merely an unsuccessful physical transaction. For some reason, looking at him and then at the silhouette of the young mother soothing her child, the nurse felt compelled to try to connect them. Being a single mother isn't a shame in society now. Ms. Mai and her son are truly pitiful, but she never asks for pity. He remained silent, not quite grasping her meaning. "If you are her friend, please don't let her circumstances deter you. The little boy is very well behaved." He ignored her advice. "What is the boy sick with?" "Leukemia. He's waiting for a suitable bone marrow match." He was astonished. "Leukemia. So she's desperate for money, taking any risk. But where is the baby's father? Doesn't he bear any responsibility for the child?" Suddenly, he felt a kinship between her and his own mother, both single mothers. But his mother was luckier. He had always been healthy, sparing her that burden. If he had been seriously ill and they lacked the funds, would his mother have considered this line of work despised by society? He felt a flicker of empathy, no longer seeing her as merely troublesome. An impulse to help her took root. She comforted the boy until he fell asleep. She gently laid him down and kissed his cheek. "Even if I lose everything, I will never abandon you." Hao witnessed the entire scene from outside, and a strange emotion stirred in his heart. After a moment, she realized her handbag was missing. She calmly reasoned it must be in his car. She remembered wearing it at the hotel entrance. "It's fine. If it's lost, it's lost." It contained nothing valuable, just 2 fake lipsticks and cheap makeup. Replacing it would only cost 100,000 dong. But even 100,000 was money, and her son needed every penny. She sighed sadly, picked up a cup, and headed out for water. At the door, she saw him, like a savior. She was overjoyed. "Oh, you haven't left yet?" He held up the handbag. "Looking for this?" She quickly took it. "Thank you, sir. I'm so sorry to trouble you." "Who is in there?" he asked, though he knew the answer. It was a test. Society was full of untrustworthy people. A 4-year-old child begging on the street could be a pickpocket in training. And in this situation, some manipulative girls would claim the child was a younger sibling or nephew, but never their own son. Tonmai was different. "My son is my everything, my son," so she had no need to hide what mattered most. Perhaps only her soiled profession. "He's my son, just over 3 years old." How breathed a sigh of relief. "It seems I wasn't wrong about you." "Where is his father?" "His father? I don't know his face, build, age, or job. I know nothing about him." She smiled and shook her head. Disappointment was visible in his eyes. Was it because she'd slept with too many clients to know the father, or because she simply wouldn't say? She looked at him and smiled brightly. "Although I don't know who my son's father is, I assure you, it's not what you're thinking." He was even more confused. "Do you know what I'm thinking?" "Of course. I can see it in your eyes." She chuckled. "But it's okay, people in my profession get the same reaction from everyone." She laughed a lot. The experience of her 20-something years had taught her that a smile could earn money, but tears couldn't. So why cry? It would only exhaust her further. He was curious. "So, how are you different from others in your line of work?" "Very different, sir. For instance, they don't know how many clients they've had, but you are my very first client." She then burst into hearty laughter, as if telling a hilarious joke, though he couldn't grasp the humor. She truly was strange. If that was the case, he'd contribute a joke of his own. "There's one more way you're different from them." "Shall I tell you?" "Yes, please." "They can't become my mistress, but you can." "Sir, has anyone ever told you that you're handsome but your jokes aren't funny?" she asked him nonchalantly, leaving him speechless. "Why? I'm serious." "You're making a mistake." "A mistress? Impossible. Why would a wealthy, generous man like you need a commodity like me as a mistress? If you wanted one, countless girls would willingly follow you." He gave a cold, contemptuous laugh. "No. Or perhaps you prefer seeing other people?" "Of course not." She hated it. If not for her circumstances, no one would choose this path. But she had no other choice. She desperately needed money. Without the medication, how could her son hold on? If she had received a proper education and had a stable job, her son wouldn't have to live in such destitution, leading to this current plight. Her family lived in an underdeveloped village. Her paternal grandmother was steeped in the ancient belief of preferring sons over daughters. Her parents, seeking to please the grandmother, had many children. Her mother bore 4 daughters consecutively, and when Tonmai, the 5th, was born, her mother died of postpartum hemorrhage. Partly because she was a girl, and partly because her birth led to her mother's death, her father resented her and ignored her completely. Her older sisters blamed her. "Mother died because of you." They all shunned and constantly tormented her. Only her second sister, slightly older and more understanding, genuinely loved and cared for her, which was why she survived. She thought she would live with her second sister forever, until 4 years ago, when she was 18. Her grandmother fell seriously ill, requiring a large sum for treatment. Second sister, being the eldest daughter, swallowed her tears and followed a matchmaker to marry a man in Taiwan. In return, the family received tens of millions of dong, enough for the grandmother's treatment. The day second sister left for that distant, unfamiliar place was when Tonmai lost her peace forever. She sought out the matchmaker, who contemptuously replied, "Your family sold their daughter, so don't try to contact her. Their prestigious family won't like it." But who knew if second sister truly married into a prestigious family, or was simply hired as a domestic worker to bear children? Saddened by the loss of contact and unwelcome at home by her older sisters, she managed to finish 12th grade and took her high school diploma to the city. Her life turned a new chapter here, or rather, her life's tragedy deepened. She arrived in the bustling city with her diploma, naively believing she would attend university like the heroines in TV dramas, secure a stable and successful job, and return to help her struggling family. Then, her father might stop hating her. Most importantly, she needed to earn enough money to find her sister. Second sister couldn't just vanish. But she was sorely mistaken. Which university would accept a girl from the countryside with only a high school diploma, an unimpressive academic record, no teacher recommendation, and, most crucially, not a single penny in her pocket? Helpless, she wandered the busy streets, her head and stomach equally empty. Suddenly, she saw a flyer advertising a job as a karaoke parlor server. She again innocently thought server meant just bringing fruit or drinks to customers. But it wasn't. Server was just a polite term for client entertainer. Customers demanded anything, and she had to comply. If they insisted she drink beer, she couldn't refuse. The only boundary was not spending the night. On the third day, she and 2 other girls served a group of 7 or 8 customers, 2 companies celebrating a contract signing. That day, the customers forced her to drink beer, a foreign city beverage she'd never tasted back home. She got drunk, utterly lost. Waking up the next morning, she was in a strange, white-sheeted room, naked and alone. Beside her was a thick stack of money, 500,000 dong. It was the largest amount she'd ever seen. The moment she held the money, she knew what she had lost. They saw her as a cool girl. In the chaotic city, the 18-year-old realized her mistake. A grave mistake. A mistake to think city life would be different. A mistake to take a job unsuitable for her age. And her biggest mistake was leaving home when she didn't understand anything about this place people called the city. She put on the clothes scattered on the floor and went back to her workplace, asking the boss who had taken her to the hotel. She wanted to face the man and throw the money in his face. Did he think money gave him everything? Did it allow him to treat every girl as a prostitute? But the boss claimed ignorance. He was afraid she'd escalate the situation and cause trouble. She'd only worked for 3 days, but he gave her a full month's salary as hush money. The month's salary plus the money left for her at the hotel totaled 50 million dong. Was 50 million a high or low price for a girl's lifelong honor? But at that moment, she also realized the money was a lot more than the money for which her second sister was sold. If she took this money home now, could she buy back her sister? Of course not. The matchmaker had been clear. I delivered your second sister, my job is done. Whether she lives or dies is none of my business. Even without her sister, in moments of loss, she longed for home, the place where no one welcomed her, but which she always proudly called mine to her friends. To return to the people who disliked her, who didn't even consider her family. Yet, whenever asked about her family, she proudly claimed they had 5 daughters, the 5 dragon princesses, a symbol of bygone prosperity. Just then, her phone rang. The screen displayed one word, Dad. Was her father worried she'd left home? Was he calling to ask her to return? So, he didn't hate her anymore. She felt a flicker of joy. She could go home now. She could take this money, albeit ill-gotten, which she had earned, to help her family. But when she answered, the shrill voice on the other end felt like a bucket of cold water thrown in her face, chilling her to the bone. You demon. Bravo. Who are you trying to copy, running away from home now? It was her third sister, only a year younger than second sister, yet she never showed Tonmai an ounce of kindness. Her sister's voice rose. If you're so good, then never come back. No one in this family welcomes a mother killer like you. Every word was like a needle piercing her heart, causing excruciating pain. Why? Why don't you sisters love me, even though we share the same mother and father? Why did Dad create me and then ignore me? Dad knows I didn't kill Mom. She died because she had too many children, never rested, and her body weakened. She bled to death giving birth to me. I'm a victim, too. I was deprived of my mother's warmth from birth and never received my father's love. Only second sister was there for me, acting as both sister and mother on this earth. Third sister continued to ramble, but Tonmai couldn't make out a word. Her ears were ringing, blocking out all sound. Her sister hung up, not caring why she wasn't responding, afraid of wasting money. As soon as the call ended, Tonmai tore out the phone's SIM card and threw it far away. She vowed that for the rest of her life, even if she had to die homeless on the streets, a wandering ghost without refuge, she would never return to that house. Well, have you decided yet? You've been thinking for a long time. Hao's question pulled her out of her painful memory. She wiped her eyes, stopping the tears. Recalling the past was always painful, but it was over now. The important thing was to live in the present. She forced a smile. Are you serious? I am. Then I accept. She only feared he was teasing her. If he was serious, it was wonderful. You thought so long, and finally agreed. No. I was thinking about something else. What? Your life. Is there anything worth mentioning? Yes. I'm afraid if my life were written into a novel, it would be a bestseller. But I must tell you, I'm only available in the evenings. In the morning, she had to work. She was a garment factory worker with a regular, respectable monthly salary, but the money was too little to cover the hospital bills. He wasn't overly concerned. That's fine. I don't need you in the mornings anyway. Yes. A thought struck him. Quit the karaoke parlor tomorrow. Yes. With him now, she wouldn't need to return to the place that awakened the negative parts of her past. Good then, I'm leaving. I'll call you when I need you. Wait, what's your name? I don't even know it. Hung. And then he left. Just like that, she became his mistress. Everything that happened that night felt like a dream. The next morning, Hung visited a colleague at the hospital. Coincidentally, his colleague was in the same hospital wing as her son. As if guided by fate, after seeing his colleague, he went to the boy's room to visit the little one. The boy was sitting by the window. Seeing Hung, the boy was delighted, as though he'd found a friend in his solitude. Who are you looking for, uncle? I'm your mother's friend. I came to visit you. Only now did he clearly see the boy's face. He had features somewhat similar to someone Hung had met before, but he couldn't recall who. Still, it didn't matter. He was just visiting. What's your name? Mom calls me San. Like Xian, spring? Hung asked, confused. The name sounded strange, he'd never heard it before. The boy shook his head. No. It's San. San, like the English word for Sunday. Hung paused for a moment. San thought he didn't understand, so he tried to explain. Mom says I'm her son. Hung nodded and smiled. Your name is San. It's a beautiful name. The boy swelled with pride at the compliment. Yes, I think so too. He found the boy adorable. Though just over 3, he always said yes, sir, and no, sir, unlike other mischievous children. Hung wished he could have a son like this someday. He played with San for 5 or 10 minutes but had to return to work, so he reluctantly said goodbye, promising to return. He also promised to bring San many gifts next time, which made the boy very happy. 3 days passed, and Hung hadn't called her. Many times, she wondered if he'd changed his mind, deciding she wasn't good enough. She wanted to call him but realized she didn't have his number. She waited, anxious that he might consider her a joke and change his decision. That would be deeply humiliating. On the evening of the 4th day, he called. His voice was slightly slurred, as if he'd been drinking. He asked her to meet him at a hotel. As soon as she knocked, he opened the door and immediately embraced her passionately, startling her. She tried to calm herself, reminding herself this was the duty of a mistress. Before she could even shower, he pushed her onto the bed, undressed her, and satisfied himself. Aside from that one time she was drunk at 18, she had no experience with this. His rush and haste left her awkward and unsure what to do. She could only lie still and let him do as he pleased. After a tiring and painful struggle, he finally withdrew, releasing outside. He was much more sober now. Noticing her lower lip was swollen, likely from biting it to endure the pain, he felt a pang of pity. He kissed her forehead gently. Someone drugged me again, and I couldn't control myself. I'm truly sorry. Hearing his apology, Her resentment immediately vanished, replaced by gratitude. How many men apologize to a girl they've paid for? It's okay, sir. Good. I'll take a quick shower and drive you back to the hospital. She lay on the bed for a while, reflecting on what he had said. He mentioned being drugged again. Did that mean it had happened before? It must have. A clean man like him wouldn't be in such a rush unless he was truly desperate. Another question arose in her mind. What kind of job does he have that makes people hate him so much? But in this competitive society, every job involves rivalry. If you don't earn the hatred of one person, you'll earn it from another. When he finished showering, she took her turn, scrubbing herself thoroughly before returning to the hospital. She didn't want her son to see his mother's sticky body. In the following days, her life returned to a routine: factory work in the morning, hospital visits after work, staying with her son until the next morning. He occasionally called her, but very rarely. She thought he was being considerate, giving her time to be with her son. Nevertheless, he transferred money consistently for several months. Then, one beautiful night, after a passionate interlude at his house, she hastily dressed to leave for the hospital. He asked her, "Does your son's illness require him to be hospitalized 24/7 for monitoring?" She answered while dressing, "No, sir." "Then why haven't I seen you take him home for months?" He was simply curious, noticing the boy was always in the hospital. Now fully dressed, she explained. "Everyone says the hospital isn't good, but it's much better than our rented room." Her and her son lived in a rundown rented room where the monthly rent, including utilities, was less than $1 million, so she couldn't demand much. In contrast, the hospital was better. The room was clean, the sheets changed daily, and the nurses often played with San when she was at work. "Why don't you and little San move in here?" "How could we, sir? This is your house. I'm just your mistress. How can I move in and bring a child with me?" Understanding her worries, he gave her a reason to agree. "Why not? I live alone. You two moving in will make the house less lonely. Whenever San needs to go to the hospital, I'll drive you both." She was thrilled. "Really? Thank you." He ruffled her hair. "It's settled. Are you ready? I'll drive you to the hospital now." "Wait a moment." She hugged him tightly. Her nose felt tender, he was too kind to her. In this world, besides her second sister, he was the only other person who had ever been so good to her. A minute later, she let go. "I'm ready. Let's go." A few days later, she and her son moved out of the rented room and into his house. The little boy loved the big house and was constantly curious, touching everything. She saw no sign of annoyance on Hung's face, but she was embarrassed, afraid San might break something. She warned her son, "San, don't touch the host's things. If you break Uncle Hung's things, where will we get the money to pay for it?" The boy was very obedient. He never dared disobey his mother. Although he was fascinated, he stopped touching anything, just looking longingly. Hung chuckled. "It's fine. They're just decorations. Why are you so hard on him?" San put his hands together politely. "No, sir. Mom told me not to touch other people's things. But I think they're beautiful." San apologizes, "Uncle." "I told you it's okay," Hung repeated. Her son was well behaved. She was happy but also heartbroken. She wished she could buy him everything he liked. She picked up the boy. "San, tomorrow Mom will buy you some toys, okay?" "Yes." That evening, after San fell asleep, she returned to the room. Hung was lying on the bed, deep in thought. She gently approached him. "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" He shook his head. She sat on the bed and took his head onto her lap. "Should I give you a massage?" Whenever he was uncomfortable, she did this, and it seemed to help. His fatigue visibly lessened. That would be nice. He truly enjoyed her massages. Her small, soft hands gently rubbing his temples brought him genuine comfort, a sort of calming, soothing medicine. A peaceful silence filled the room. He kept his eyes slightly closed, and she continued the massage, hoping to ease his exhaustion for a few minutes. He broke the silence. "I have something I'm curious about. If you're uncomfortable, don't answer. Go ahead. He wasn't usually one to pry, but ever since meeting her, he felt compelled to know everything about her. Why? He didn't know, he only knew an unnamed feeling drove him to understand her better. Does San's father know nothing about his existence? He believed that a person with a heart would never ignore their own flesh and blood facing such difficulty. Her hands continued to gently massage his temples. I don't know either. I guess he doesn't know. He hummed softly, apparently still unsatisfied with her answer. She smiled gently. Do you want to hear San's story? He nodded. Tell me. She recounted how San came into the world but omitted the part about being a child abandoned by her family. After that devastating phone call, she wandered alone, like a desolate spirit. Fortunately, luck smiled on her once. She met MS. Hugh. Hugh took pity on her, letting her stay in her rented room for a few days and then introducing her to a job. Since then, she'd worked at the garment factory. After a month with Hugh, Hugh married and moved to her husband's home, which she heard was wealthy. Hugh's mother-in-law wanted her to stay home and help with the business, so Hugh relinquished the room to Ton Mai, kindly paying 3 months' rent in advance. Ton Mai hadn't known how to repay her. They still called each other occasionally. Hugh described a happy life, a loving in-laws family and an obedient, well-mannered daughter. Ton Mai kept San's illness a secret, fearing Hugh would try to help again, leaving her with an unpayable debt of gratitude. Hung listened intently, then interjected, Were you already pregnant when MS? Hugh moved to her husband's house? Yes. But I didn't know San was in my belly then. I found out in the 6th week. She continued her story. After a month at the factory, she made friends with several older colleagues who treated the quiet, kind girl like a younger sister. One lunch break, she saw a colleague looking pale, with a bloodstain on her pants. Ton Mai, thinking she was menstruating, offered a comforting word. The colleague burst into tears, confessing, I just had an abortion, which is why I'm bleeding so much. Ton Mai didn't ask the reason, but the woman was clearly devastated. The colleague confided, I already have 2 children. My life is far from affluent, so I had to terminate this unexpected pregnancy. But it breaks my heart. How can I not grieve my own flesh and blood? Her story jolted Ton Mai awake. She realized she hadn't had her period in a long time. In a panic, she went to the hospital. When she received the results, she was numb. She was pregnant. 6 weeks along, with a detectable heartbeat. Can you believe it, sir? At that moment, all I could think about was getting rid of it. I was only 18. I couldn't be a mother. She even bought 2 abortion pills. Just as she was about to take them to end everything, a wave of nausea hit her. It helped her regain her senses. It was her child inside her. How could she abandon it? What fault was it? Hearing this, Hung's heart ached. Why was fate so cruel to her? Some were overly blessed, while others endured endless hardship. She was only 18, still a student, yet burdened by this difficulty. And that man, who was he? In that moment, she couldn't think, she just cried uncontrollably. After calming down, she called MS. Hugh, who told her she was making the right choice. Hugh assured her to keep the baby, offering to babysit San when Ton Mai returned to work until the child was old enough for daycare. That's how she and her son survived. A few months ago, she discovered San's illness. At first, she used all her savings for the hospital and treatment, but it wasn't enough. Left with no options, she went to the karaoke parlor to work as a server, where she met him. Seeing that her story was making her sad, Hung gently changed the topic. Were you good at English in school? She was surprised. English was actually her worst subject. She forgot every word she learned. She asked, Why do you ask? Because San's name means son. I was very impressed when I first met the little boy. She laughed out loud, a genuine laugh this time, not the forced, money-earning one. In 12 years of school, I only knew 3 words, yes, no, and okay. The 4th word I learned was son. He laughed too. This was perhaps the first time he'd seen her smile so brightly. and the first time he'd heard her make a joke. He wanted her to keep that smile, to be truly happy like this forever. He sat up, facing her, looking directly into her eyes. "Trang," he called, using her name for the first time. "Yes. I have something serious to ask you." "Yes, I'm listening." He took her small hands in his voice a whisper, but utterly serious. "Stop being my mistress. Will you be my wife?" He could confirm it now, he was in love with this girl. She tried to pull her hands away, but he held them tighter. He asked again, "Will you?" She was flustered. I. How could her past be worthy of him? He was successful and unmarried. Why would he want to build a family with someone like her? He understood her worry. He hugged her. "I don't care about your past. You have to forget it, too, if you want to be happy." She remained silent, seemingly holding something back. He released her, looking into her eyes with the utmost sincerity. "I can't promise much, but please, let me love and care for you and your son. Will you?" She couldn't hold back any longer. She embraced him and burst into heart-wrenching sobs, letting out all the sorrow in her heart. "Sir, you're so good to me. You don't owe me anything." He chuckled, patting her back gently. He didn't know if he owed her anything, but he believed their meeting was preordained. "It's late. Sleep, my dear. Life is long, and I won't make empty promises, but for now, I will love you deeply and wholeheartedly care for little San as if he were my own son." The following weekend, he drove her and San to his hometown to meet his mother and seek her permission for the marriage. Ton Mai was initially hesitant, but he persuaded her, assuring her his mother was kind and wouldn't make things difficult. Loving him, she agreed. He had done so much for her, she felt she should do something for him, too. The drive from the city took about 4 hours. San was tired and slept for most of the way, waking up upon arrival. His mother was overjoyed to see her son bringing his future wife home. She'd been up early, buying fresh ingredients for a lavish lunch. When Hung entered with Ton Mai, the mother was happy, but seeing the little boy with her, she paused. The child looked familiar. "Hello, Auntie," Ton Mai greeted politely. "Hello. Are you tired from the long drive, dear?" "No, Auntie." Ton Mai then prompted San, "San, say hello to Grandma." The mother nodded, then asked, "This is?" Before Hung could answer, Ton Mai respectfully interjected, "Auntie, this is my son." A flicker of disappointment crossed the mother's eyes, but it quickly turned into a warm smile. "Well, go wash up and come eat lunch. I've finished cooking." Hung said yes and led Ton Mai and San to wash up behind the house. He reassured her, "See? My mother is very kind." Ton Mai smiled faintly and nodded. All day, his mother maintained a cordial attitude toward her, treating her simply as a guest. That evening, Ton Mai woke up alone. Hung wasn't beside her. She went looking for him and heard him talking to his mother near her room. She knew eavesdropping was wrong, but she desperately needed to know if his feelings were born of love or pity. If it was pity, she truly didn't want it. Their initial transaction-based relationship would be better. She couldn't see his face, but she clearly heard his words. "No, Mom, I love her sincerely." There isn't a shred of pity mixed in. After a long silence, his mother sighed, "All right, I respect your decision. I just worry your feelings might be fleeting. If the marriage fails later, the girl will be hurt all over again." As a single mother herself, she understood. Her husband had died in a traffic accident shortly after Hung was born. She had single-handedly raised him. She understood the hardship and sorrow, and how a woman needs a shoulder to lean on during her weak moments. She didn't mind the private matter of Ton Mai having a child is a child. As long as they treated him with genuine kindness, he would see them as family. Ton Mai, listening outside, heard every word. Hung was good to her. His mother was good to her, too. Despite the apparent happiness, tears streamed down her face, uncontrollable. After a while, his mother spoke, "It's late. Go back to your room and sleep. You need strength for the long drive tomorrow." Hung said goodnight and left the room. As he closed the door, he saw Ton Mai standing there, tears still running down her face. You heard everything? She nodded. He smiled. Then go inside and say hello to your mother-in-law. She went in. The mother was slightly surprised but smiled warmly. Can't sleep because you're in a strange house? Tonmai approached and took her hand. Thank you, Auntie. Thank you for accepting me. The mother patted her hand. It's nothing to thank me for. All I want is for you and my son to love each other. Tonmai nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes. The next afternoon, they had to return to the city for work on Monday. Little San seemed fond of his grandma, giving her a polite kiss on the cheek before they left. Throughout the drive back, Hung steered with one hand and tightly held Tonmai's hand with the other. At that moment, she felt all the misfortune of the past 20 years. Was God teasing her by orchestrating happiness just when she was at her weakest? Back in the city, she had to face reality. Little San was scheduled for surgery. That Friday afternoon, she and Hung took San to the hospital for the final procedures. The sky over Saigon was heavy and grey, foreshadowing a great challenge. San was settled in a private room, still playfully drawing and trying to color the brightest sunrays on a scrap of A4 paper. Mom, I'm drawing you and Uncle Hung here. San pointed to the colorful picture. Tonmai smiled, though a storm raged inside her. She knelt and hugged her son tightly. Yes, San is so good. After the surgery, when we go home to Uncle Hung's, Mom will buy San a brand new, big box of crayons, okay? Hung leaned against the door frame, watching them silently. He didn't go to work that afternoon. He wanted to be there. He had used all his connections to find the best bone marrow match. It was from a young donor in Hanoi. He had personally covered all the costs without letting her worry. That night, San developed a high fever. His rattling cough tore at Tonmai's heart. Terrified, she didn't leave his side for a second. Hao took her hand, his voice reassuring. I'm here. Everything will be fine. You have to trust me. The next day, San was wheeled into the operating room. The surgery door closed, separating San from the outside world. The red no entry sign felt like a nail driven into Tonmai's mind. She collapsed onto the cold hallway bench, shaking. For the first time, she dropped her forced strength. Tears streamed down her face, unstoppable. Hao gently pulled her into his embrace. She buried her face in his chest, sobbing hysterically. Hung. If something happens to my son, I won't be able to live. Hao held her tightly, his hand soothing her hair. Don't say that. San is a warrior. You have to believe in him. And you have to believe in me. The hours dragged by, heavy as lead. They sat waiting, not speaking. The light above the operating room shone like the only beacon in an endless night. 6 hours later, the light went off. A doctor emerged, his mask hiding most of his face, but his eyes showed weariness and relief. The surgery was a success. The bone marrow transplant was successful. The child's health is quite weak, and he needs time to adapt and recover. We have won the first battle. Tonmai nearly fainted with relief. She cried again, but these were tears of joy and gratitude. Thank you, doctor. Thank you, Hung. Tonmai gripped Hao's hand. San was moved to the intensive care unit. The first 2 days were the most critical. Tonmai and Hao took turns keeping watch. A week later, San was more alert. His face was pale, but his smile had returned. San looked at Hao, his voice weak. Uncle Hung really is a superhero. You saved me. Hao ruffled the boy's hair. Not me, you were the one who fought so well, San. The boy pointed at Tonmai. Mom was crying all the time. Uncle Hung must be Mom's son now. Tonmai looked at the 2 most important men in her life, her heart warming. Hao's love and sacrifice had not only saved her son but had also redeemed her own soul. 3 months later, San was discharged. The tests showed he was recovering excellently. Tonmai and Hao officially registered their marriage. They didn't have a lavish wedding but an intimate celebration at home with Hao's mother, now Tonmai's mother-in-law, and a few close friends. Tonmai quit her garment factory job. She started taking English classes and a basic accounting course that Hao had arranged. He wanted her to pursue her deferred dreams. One afternoon, with San asleep, Tonmai sat beside Hao in his study. "You never asked about San's father." Hao smiled, turning to hug her. "Does that matter anymore, my dear? The past is the past. Now, I am your husband, and I am San's father. That's enough." He looked deeply into her eyes. "I know your name is Trang, not Tonmai. You can forget that name, forget everything that happened at the illusory paradise. From now on, you only need to be my Trang." Tonmai cried tears of happiness. After years in the abyss, her life had finally found its true light. Hao was not just her husband and a father figure, he was the one who bravely accepted and redeemed her. A year later, their small family was complete. San was fully healthy, happily attending kindergarten. He called Hao dad naturally and affectionately. Tonmai was pregnant with their second child. Standing by the window, watching San play in the garden, Tonmai leaned her head on Hao's shoulder. "Thank you. Without you, I don't know what would have become of my son and me." Hao took her hand and placed it on her stomach. "Don't thank me, my dear. I should be thanking you. You brought the sun into my life." Tonmai's life was no longer a transaction in the dark but a love story built on understanding and sacrifice. The sun in the abyss was not just San, but Hao's love itself, which illuminated and filled the deepest wounds of her heart. They had found the peace and happiness the 18-year-old girl wandering in the city had never dared to dream of.